Grand Risings, and welcome you travelers. Welcome to the journey with Hamtonio. I got a special guest on the show today, a good brother. You know, when we first met, we bonded instantly, and we've been keeping contact ever since. And you know, if you listen to a few of the introduction videos, and listen to a lot of scholars on YouTube. It's very important to know who you are and who we are as a people, what kind of legacy that has been left for us that we're not taking up at this particular time. So I want to start with knowing a little bit about our physiology. You know, what makes us tick? You know, this pigmentation, this melanin that they never talk about, or you never learn anything about, as far as in school is concerned. So we're not conducting an interview here. We're going to have a conversation with my good brother, Dr. T. Owens Moore. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Moore. Dr. Moore is a trained physiological psychologist. He is a graduate of Lincoln University in PA, and he has an MS and a PhD from Howard University. For more than 20 years, he has served as a college professor, a biomedical researcher, and an African-centered scholar and activist. He is a distinguished educator who appreciates the interdisciplinary studies. He has served as an assistant professor at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and as associate professor and chairperson of the Department of Psychology at Clark Atlanta University, and professor and chair of the Department of Psychology at Fayetteville State University in North Carolina. His specialty courses are both in the fields of neuroscience and African-centered psychology. Throughout his academic career, he has been actively involved in the Department of Psychology, Biology, Africana, and Women's Studies. In addition, he is the co-founding member of the Neuroscience Institute at Morehouse College of Medicine. He is also an active member of the National Science Foundation-funded Center of Behavioral Neuroscience in Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Moore has received federal and private grants support to conduct research on the effects of hormones and neuropeptides on social behavior in rodents. Throughout his diversified academic training, he has been able to study learning paradigms that can be utilized to enhance the educational performance of students. He is a 2009 U.S. Fulbright Scholar, and he is recognized as a social activist on an international level. He has been on 4 continents as well as the Caribbean islands to teach and conduct research. He continues to have an impact on students and intellectuals in many countries, such as Salvador, Brazil, where he is recognized as a distinguished scholar and activist. He has written numerous scientific articles. He has a popular blog talk radio host on Melanology Hour. He is an author of several books: The Science of Melanin, Dispelling the Myth, The Science of Melanin, the 2nd edition, Dark Matter, Dark Secrets, Why Darkness Matter, The Power of Melanin in the Brain, Clue Seekers, A Journey Through Time to Search for an Identity, The Superfly Proverb, A Practical Guide for Loving Relationships. He is currently working on 2 additional manuscripts: The Third Eye, Space Travel Using Ancient Wisdom to Unlock the Keys to the Future, and the Psychoneuromelannology. And he's also the author of this book right here, y'all, that what we're going to be talking about, Pigment Power. And on this show, we might be talking about exclusively releasing a new piece of work that he's been working on as well. But he's a good friend, a good brother. I say a good brother because we just going to have a conversation. A good brother, my friend, Dr. T. Owens Moore. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for this invitation to be on your program. I guess to start off this journey.
Yes, sir, my brother. You started off.
You've been preparing this launch for a long time, and so I'm honored really to be here with you to help you launch this endeavor. I know you said something about superfly. It's a spider fly proverbs.
Oh, I did. Did I say Superfly? Okay, Spiderfly. Yeah,
Yep,
the
don't get
prophet.
nothing like that.
Yeah, Superfly. And you know how that work with the consciousness of our people. What that has done to us, man. How much damage that Superfly has done to our situation, brother. But again, but pardon me, y'all, for that. Yeah, Spiderfly. Yeah. All right.
You had me going to Harvard, but no, I went to Howard. You got that
Yeah,
straight.
yeah, yeah. I think I corrected that too.
I appreciate you just laying on out there about the background and all. Didn't have to say too
Mhm.
much about all that because I mean, you introduced me on so many venues, and I appreciate you exposing my work to the people up
Mm.
north here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes, sir.
cold up in Cleveland, but the consciousness is heavy. Consciousness is hot. So I appreciate that opportunity over the years, not like a few years, a long time we've been working together in terms of trying to bring some, information to the people, to the unit, the community, communiversity. You know,
Yes, sir.
we even though we've had the events at the educational institutions, it's about the community being introduced to these concepts, and some people in the community know more than people that are in the university.
Yeah, that is true, man. That is true. I believe that. But again, you know how our dear brother Dr. Carter G. Woodson, book talk about the miseducation. How institutions can really mislead us, and really all it does is confine your thinking. And some scholars talk about schooling is you just mimicking and just remembering stuff that you've been taught. Is not really causing you to really think and create, based on the information that is given to you. You just repeating and reciting stuff that's been taught to you.
Yes, I appreciate you with your you've had a radio program. I don't know if you want to talk about the radio program here, but
Oh
you've been
yeah,
doing this for a while, 360 degrees.
yeah.
But
About what is it? About 16 years now. Folks that may be in another part of the planet that sees this video. You can catch us on Saturday mornings between 11 and 12. You can stream it at www.newstalkcleveland.com. www.newstalkcleveland.com. 360 info with Hamtonio and Vince Robinson. Yes.
yeah, man, that's powerful because you're reaching the community on another level that I'm not. Because I'm in the classroom at a university. You're on the radio
Mm-hmm.
waves. Here you now with this podcast, you're reaching people internationally. So I really commend you for stepping up the game and now providing more venues where people can get information. So more power to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I've been procrastinating for a while, but I'm apologize to our listeners and viewers right now. Hey, this I'm a rookie at this thing that we doing this, but it's about I'm not gonna try to dazzle you with 20-cent and $5 words or things like that. It's about giving our people the information, and we
Right.
want to have this conversation. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
hmm Well, Dr. Moore, what led you down this journey of being a neuroscientist? Because I guess most people like myself, I don't run into many brothers that say they are neuroscientists. So
Well, as a child, I always wanted to know how things ticked, how things worked. I guess trying to mix up perfumes and what happens
okay,
when you put it into certain items. And
yeah,
so I always thought about that. And so going to school, I wanted to be a architect, engineer,
okay,
something I wanted to
hmm
manipulate. And so when I went to my first escapade at the university level, was at Lincoln University as a Lincoln Aerospace Engineering recruitment student. They're trying to create black astronauts.
okay,
So I was pursuing that, but didn't like it. So I knew I
hmm
wanted to do something technical. So it's like, what am I going to do? So I took a class called physiological psychology before giving up and not wanting to go through school because many of us run from science. It's
hmm
unfortunate that we run from science, even though we created science.
that's right.
All of our past civilizations were built because we understood science. So I
hmm
had a class called physiological or biological psychology and took psychology. And it's like, I think I like this. So I can now maybe go to medical school, be a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't pursue medicine, but I went to get my PhD in the area called physiological psychology, which is really like neuroscience. So I've been pursuing this for over 30 years, studying the brain and how it works, operates. It's the most elaborately constructed entity in the universe. So there's no way I'm going to say that we and I have figured it out, but that's why you investigate and do research. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
what led to this realm was always wanting to know how things work. And so the
Mm-hmm.
brain became an exciting topic of discussion.
Mm-hmm. What we're going to kind of focus on, the consciousness and in this this thing that they call melanin, this pigmentation in our skin, and with your book, Pigment Power, you stated and kind of talked about like there's been minimal research, I guess, by the widespread scientific audience about melanin and what melanin is, even though some people have. But is that a charge that's been taken up mainly by African American scholars?
No, I would not say that. There's a whole pigment cell journal, but that's out of Japan or based out
Mm,
of, not America. It's not like black people have a journal that studies pigment or melanin. So I wouldn't necessarily
mm-hmm,
be taking it up, but we have people that investigate it from their different perspectives, such as myself, and we then put together literature. So in '95, I wrote the book, The Science of Melanin, Dispelling the Myths. I wrote that
mm-hmm,
early on coming out of grad school because I saw a lot of confusion about the topic of discussion. And so, like, what can I do to contribute with my professional knowledge? So I wrote that because there weren't a lot of people of our melanin dominant status discussing the topic. A few, but not a many. And those
mm-hmm,
few, were very profound. I want to make sure we got the information right. I went ahead, well, actually, I went ahead and wrote another book called Dark Matters, Dark Secrets. And I wrote that to go a little bit more into the brain and pineal gland and drug addiction. So
mm-hmm,
I was trying my best early on to be not the only one, not
mm-hmm,
having the foundational text, but information that can help out as people as yourself are asking questions about, well, what is this melanin? I call it, actually, we're going to come up with a new term tonight. We're going to call it carbon based fire. And I'll
mm-hmm,
explain why. And so when the other publisher went out of business, I went ahead and published my own book called The Science of Melanin, the second edition. And I did that because someone else was marketing a book called The Science and Myth of Melanin. You can get this book
mm-hmm,
if you find it, but that's not my book. Yeah, my name's on it. Yeah, I'm on the back of it, but someone else is marketing that in my name. And it's the same thing that
mm-hmm.
happened with other books like Stolen Legacy. George G. and James is gone since 1954. I mean, he's out of here, but there's several people that marketed his book called Stolen Legacy. So
I see.
I've led it up to another book called Why Darkness Matters. I wrote that with Brother Richard King, Dr. Bruce Bynum, and Sister Ann Brown. So we put that together. And then what you wanted to discuss today was pigment power. So for over the
Mm-hmm.
years, 30 years, I've been discussing the topic and providing knowledge for the people to, comprehend it from I would say, a layman's perspective. I don't want to make it so complex that people don't understand it and they run from it. But how can we present it so people would like to appreciate it? So
I
that's why
see.
I've investigated the topic.
Yeah, but you talk about melanin and you talk about it playing three critical functioning roles in the body. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a little slide that I can play later on, or I can show it now if you want me to. But
You can if you want to.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I kind of lay it on out there how we're talking about this is a very important topic of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this presentation that I gave, and let me know. Can you see the screen?
Not yet. Okay, it's coming. Alrighty. Okay.
You see that
There we.
screen?
Yes. Let me see.
So
Let me put it on. Let me do it like this here. All right. We're gonna go full screen with it. Okay. Yes.
So, in the midst of this quick presentation here, I'm going to tell you those three advantages to having melanin that I will discuss that you were asked about. But I gave this presentation at the Madu bookstore in Atlanta. Sister Nia Damali, without her assistance and her support and her direction of a bookstore in Atlanta called Madu Bookstore, I don't know where you're going to find black books,
Mm.
especially in Atlanta. So many cities don't even have black bookstores anymore.
Yeah.
So I presented this and lined up. I presented on 2222. That is September 22nd, 2022.
Mm.
And the power of this was that we were focusing on uh, really where is this melanin and are we the first to even investigate this? So I told you about this book, Why Darkness Matters. Published that with Joanja Kunjufu's company out of Chicago called African American Images. And we
Mm-hmm.
revised this book and revised it, and I'm so powerfully connected to you, my brother, because you got me doing this presentation today. And today I just got the copy of this proof of this new book. So I have another chapter in there dealing with fire atoms, which I'm talking about right now. And
Mm-hmm.
Brother Bonham has a new chapter in there, and we did the obituary for Brother King in this book. So that just came today. And why
Oh,
am I
okay.
talking about that? Because in chapter 5, it talks about fire atoms and calling them a carbon-based molecule. We can call that's what I'm saying. It's a carbon-based molecule, but
Mm.
it's like chlorophyll in plants. And without this pigmentation, life would cease to exist. Now, George G. M. James, in chapter 5 of his book, now that's chapter 5 of my book. In his book, chapter 5, he talks about pre-Socratic thinkers. And listen to this about this concept called uh, fire atoms. It says the atom in sensation and knowledge. And sensation and knowledge is very important for African-centered communication. Black people need to be connected, and sensation and knowledge make you connected. The mind or soul is composed of fire atoms. So I know, Brother Hampton, you like to talk a lot about consciousness. I'm like, what is that? Where is that? So the soul, the 7 divisions of the soul, actually, and many people don't discuss how complicated that is. The mind is everywhere, everywhere. If you just have a
Mm-hmm.
thought right now in your mind to think about doing something, well, you're thinking about it, but you got to make it happen. So just the fact that you put it out there, that mind is
Mm-hmm.
out there. You might be able to connect to somebody else out there has the same thought. Y'all make something work. That's why I said it's powerful for you in this journey to invite me on board to be the first one of your first lecturers or first presenters to have a discussion. So we're
Mm-hmm.
on the same what mind wavelength. So our fire atoms are linked up. So which are the finest, the smoothest, and the most mobile? Now this is now 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
This is like maybe even before that, because the Greeks are now taking this information that they're getting from the Africans. These fire atoms are distributed throughout the whole universe and in all animate things, and especially in the human body, where they are found in the largest numbers. Now, that's got to be melanin. Now, that's way before we even started talking about melanin in the African centered community, because this is written back in the BC times. The question you asked about the 3 functions, one is antioxidant, one nerve conduction facilitator, the other energy transformer. When we say
Mm-hmm.
antioxidant, we're talking about preventing things from destroying the body, like toxic elements, free radicals, bad chemicals, which destroy your cells. So the melanin serves as a way to coalesce those bad chemicals, those substances, so they don't destroy your cells. That's why you look younger with a melanated body.
Oh, that's why they say black don't crack, man. What?
There it is. That's what it's linked to. Absolutely correct.
Uh-huh.
And then the nerve conduction facilitator makes the nerve impulses move faster, quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in areas of the brain where it's dark in color, and it's also helping what the brain cells to move quicker and faster, and you are responding better. Even those
Okay.
with darker eyes, the melon in the back part of the eye, they're better marksmen and better able to be able to see things acutely and sharply. And then
Mm-hmm.
energy transformer. Everywhere you see energy from the outside of the body being entered into the body for the body to transform it or understand it, you find melanin. In your eye, you don't have any melanin in the back part of your eye, you're blind. In your ear, you don't have any inner ear melanin, and you're not hearing certain frequencies of sound. And so the skin becomes a large organ, and it's responding to what stimuli outside. And you can
Mm-hmm.
really see the difference in this with people who are albinos because they lack melanin in a lot of those other areas. Doesn't mean they're dysfunctional, but they have some problems where they really can't deal with the sunlight and ultraviolet radiation. That becomes problematic. So energy transformer is maybe more complex to understand, but it's saying that outside world like vision, like stimuli, like photons, sound waves for hearing, all those
Okay.
stimuli have to be interpreted in the brain. So that answers
Mm-hmm.
your question you asked me earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Deep in
Yeah.
the brain, you got these black melanated centers that are up through the brain stem leading up to the brain. If those dark areas are not there, you may be having a limited number of neurotransmitters are being emitted. And I'll end this presentation showing you what happens if there's an area of the brain that lacks melanin. You can develop a neurodegenerative disorder. That's a problem.
Hmm.
Example, on the right side there, or on that slide with the person standing up, that's a person with Parkinson's disease. Now, if you look at the very top, there is a what is that? There is a up top is actually a disease brain, because you see on the bottom that healthy brain with those dark splotches.
Yeah. Did you click on that? Did you move to that particular slide? I don't. You still
Yes.
got the beginning one. I don't know. It's not showing on mine for some reason.
Oh no, you can't see the images.
Yeah. Not on the side. I do. I don't see it. Let me see. I don't know if I could click on it or not.
Well, I
I'll scroll
moved
through
it.
your.
Yeah, I moved it, but you can't see it.
Let me see. No. Let me try to see something here. Let me give you the full thing. Try it now, Doc.
Okay, so what you should see right now is a slide that has neurodegenerative disease.
No, I just see the fire items ignite picnic
Well,
pile. I know we was
sharing
working.
it, but it's not. You're not seeing my
Yeah,
screen change.
no, I know we worked that before. I don't know why it's not changing now. Hmm. I know I can't change it here. That is interesting.
Well, let me go ahead and roll through it. Oh, you can't
Okay.
see it.
Yeah, I can't see it on your side. Let me see. Try something here, just in case if I can do anything on it here. Yeah, it has to be on your side.
Stop. Well, if I stop sharing right now,
Hmm.
come back to you. So you see
Okay.
me right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, that when I shared it.
Let's try it one more time. We'll try it one more time,
Okay.
and then you can just run through it on best way you can on your side.
Okay.
We'll try it from that part.
So
But
what do you
Doc,
see
why
now?
you? Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see. Let's try this again. Okay, it's at a different slide.
Right.
So
So
it's.
you see that slide.
Oh, now we got it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me move back to show you what you missed it.
Mm-hmm.
So
All
what I
right. Now we're cooking with gas.
all right. So that's where you were stuck before.
Yes, sir.
So I said that was the book that had published by another publisher.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Then I said we now revised it. This is the next book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said that in the book by Stolen, or by George G. and James Stone Legacy, he discusses these fire atoms. Now, in
Okay.
my chapter 5, I talk about this, exposing what Dr. or Brother James talked about. And so in his book, he talks about these fire atoms. I'm saying the fire atoms are melanin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just discussed the issue of those three advantages that you asked about.
Yes.
And that led up to these neurodegenerative diseases. So
Mm-hmm.
Parkinson's disease, you see on the right side there, the person's walking with tremors and rigidity and stoop posture, and that
Yes.
shuffling gait called festination. If you see the top part that sliced the brain, the Parkinson's disease on the top is lacking those dark cells. On the bottom, you see the healthy dark cells.
Mm-hmm.
So when you lack that darkness, that melanin, it's not producing the dopamine, you got a movement problem. So imagine the fact that you had had it working right. You'd be doing some of the things that we do on the dance floor, the football field, basketball court, blah blah blah. Things dealing with psychomotor skill development.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the left side there, you got the person with Huntington's disease. It's not specifically a neuromelanated problem, but those cells that are being destroyed are also in the basal ganglia, that same area that the substantia nigra is. And then I was just using an example of what's going on with our direction. And right now we got black sisters dominating gymnastics. So the top three gymnastics or gymnasts that we have in history have Dominique Dawes, Gabby Douglas, and of course Simone Biles. Now we start looking at what they've done to contribute. Olympic champions. They've redefined the way that we see sports. Now you fast forward the world to this now in 2002, you have more sisters at the top of gymnastics. Gymnastics is not easy. To walk on the
Mm-hmm.
beam, to be able to do that on the floor and stay coordinated, that takes some skill. And the fact that we're now I guess you say dominating that, sweeping the podium on that. When you're given the chance to do something, guess what? You can elevate. So I was just mentioning the names of those individuals and what their accomplishments were, but it's really still defining the fact that they are moving at a state that allowing their melanin to operate. When you fast forward to what's going on in the media now with the Woman King, haven't seen it yet, but just that reality of black women and their powers and their opportunities to excel when given the chance, do a whole lot. I just talked about this in terms of those who've studied our past. If you see that image right there in the dead center,
Mm-hmm.
picture of Sigmund Freud's office. In his office, right above his couch, there's a picture of Abu Simbel, same carving out the mountain there in Africa. So he's acknowledging the fact that there are some connections to the ancient past and understanding the mind and psychoanalysis. And so he was exporting and taking those things that we had already discussed. On the left side is where his office is, and you see on the desk, let's say artifacts like Osiris, Isis, and Imhotep. And so they were acknowledging our past, but didn't tell you that it was your past. They stole it. That's why George Jean James
It's normal. It's normal.
right, called Stone Legacy. And so if you look at Swallow de Lubeck's with a book called The Temple of Man, on the right side there is a whole, we designed buildings on the construction of the human body. And so documenting this via architecture. And then you have on the left side there, this most recent magazine, not most, that's actually 1992. A magazine with a sister on the front on a computer chip with that beautiful bronze body, melanin. On the left side is a DNA molecule. On the right side is a little molecule that's carbon-based, like melanin. And on the far right is the Melanin, which people call hieroglyphics. So people have been studying us, looking at you, trying to find out what is that melanin, because they may not have it, but it's making some things happen in people's lives. So having the opportunity to go to Africa and see how it is that people who came there to study, when they saw what these Africans did, these melanin dominant people, how what they created. I mean, you see on the left side there that gigantic column. You see that on like the building?
Mm-hmm.
You even see me?
Yeah, barely. That's how big they are.
How do people construct something like that? So when people are coming from out of the country, out of that land, and coming here to see that, these must be guys that did this. And I like that image on the right side because it looks like the sisters from Black Panther in Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's on the temples. You know, the whole images that we see from Wakanda or Black Panther coming from Africa. Count Boney was there looking at those images, and he was like, my goodness, these were black people that built all this. So at the same time, Napoleon was over there trying to colonize and take them people. So Count Boney wrote a book called Ruins and Empires to show the contributions of African people who've been forgotten in history. When you go and you see the monuments yourself, you start to see, my goodness, this is my ancestors who did this, or people look like me. And when you go back to visit today, they say, hey, brother, welcome back home. You don't see that in history books. And so even though Count Boney wrote that book on the time period of Napoleon, the last slide here says, as we study geopolitics, I know you into that also because you are a well-rounded brother. Napoleon says, my decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Haiti is based on the need to block forever the march of blacks in the world. And that's why we're in a position today. We're going to know ourselves and we're running for ourselves.
Yeah, that people need to understand that how much effort. Let me get my camera together here. How much effort has really been put in monies and dollars to really conceal the things that we do. Why a person go through so much great lengths to cover up the things that black folks do, and like I was talking to somebody today, well, they can't go back to Europe and other places, talking about some black and some melanated deities to their people. So therefore, this will happen. And they make all kind of crazy stories. Well, they didn't have tools to chisel the nose narrow. They didn't the paint. They was black because over time they darkened up, and I mean all kind of crazy stuff. And people are on places like Discovery Channel and stuff like that, spilling out this kind of craziness and garbage. And let me say this and make this point. You got those invaders, Arab folks over there right now. They're upset because black folks are going back to Egypt and reclaiming themselves. And they right now talking about they weren't black folks. Why black folks saying that these are black folks? And one simple a thing that I can say to clear up that misnomer right there. Number one, in all the hieroglyphs, there's no Arab names in the hieroglyphs, okay? And if it was your sacred stuff, you wouldn't be defiling it and destroying it the way you do. But like when my brother went over there, the Arabs was literally chiseling out some of the hieroglyphics and selling it to tourists over there. So if that was your sacred grounds, if that was your sacred legacy, you wouldn't be defiling it like that. So come on with it,
Right. I hear you.
Yeah, so
History is important. I'm sure you're going to have some other scholars on your journey that are going to be more, I guess, the experts in the history to kind of explain all that. But unless we keep exposing it, it'll get whitewashed, and we will never know what.
Hey, well, that's where they at right now. Talk about critical race theory. That's why we have to, do programs like this, and that's why we have to stay on board and on track because folks trying to change history right under your nose. How that experiment, Doc, how they say when you're sitting into a room and they ever so slightly dims the light and you don't know that is after a while you find yourself in a dark room and didn't even notice that those things is happening right in our face, and we're so inundated with football and all the rest of the stuff, and those things are taking place. I was listening to some politics on TV, and they was talking about how the Republican Party is actually got their eyes set on school boards.
Yes.
Trying to connect and change the game with the school board so they can throw out the whole critical race theory piece. They're attacking it from that point, that low end point of view of dealing with trying to get that agenda across. Man, it's crazy. Yeah. So we're back to our topic of dealing with melanin. I guess a couple things that I'm concerned with, because we are not educated in our physiology, about this melanin piece and how it can be your best friend or how it can be detrimental to you. Now, you talked about it being a toxic absorber. Is that I'm saying that?
Proper. Yeah. You went a little
by me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But us being in.
You went a little silent on me on your phased in and out on me, but I think you were asking about a neutralizer of toxic substance. That's the key word.
Yeah, a neutralizer. Okay. And so by us being in this toxic environment, all the time, how does that weigh, on our physiology and like you. Hold on. Yeah, we coming back, y'all. Okay, I'm back at you. Y'all forgive me, y'all, but I'm down here in the basement, and this maybe our internet connection may be coming in and out, and it's storming. So, yeah, bear with us. Did you get that last question, Doc?
No.
Okay. Basically, I was saying by being a toxic neutralizer and us being in this toxic environment all around us all the time, how is that affecting us?
Well, the toxicity comes on multiple levels. We speak about the social toxicity where the environment is affecting us. That's really dealing with stress. Now, stress can make your cells die quicker. Stress can make your genes and your DNA respond in a way that they deteriorate faster. So stress and toxicity on that level of social behavior can be problematic. But toxicity that we put in our body, sometimes we don't know we're putting it in because we're consuming items like food or drinks or smelling, ingesting, and that gets in the body, the melanin serves as a protector. But as it's
Okay.
protecting, the more toxicity it's trying to absorb and protect us from, it
Mm-hmm.
then can start to die out. And that's why you don't get Parkinson's disease when you're 4, 3, 8 years old. You get it when you're much older in terms of you living life.
I
So
see.
you may even work in a place where you might spray pesticides. You might work on a farm. You might be a exterminator. You might work around chemicals. I mean, so depending upon your job, the way those chemicals are toxic to the body, melanin is trying to help to what not allow it to destroy the brain,
I
but the
see.
reality is it is. So the
Mm-hmm.
toxic, it's like a double-edged sword. It's protecting you because it's absorbing, but on the other end, it's absorbed so much that the cells start to die out.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna throw this in right now. I used to say this, years ago about this whole melanin piece because I ran across some information a while back and heard and had some confirming information on the radio show talking about the melanin cells. So when you say a toxic neutralizer, I always used to say that with black folks dealing with drug addiction, this that melanin make it a little bit more difficult for them to get off of drugs because of how the melanin cells try to, like you say, neutralize the toxins and whatever ills that you put in your body, to where a European person that has a little less melanin stands a better chance and has a better success rate of getting off of the drug addiction. Is there any truth to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the biological constituency, that is, how is that melanin works, it is absorbing. Anything that black is black or dark absorbs. If it's
Mm-hmm.
white, it reflects. So on a biological level, with chemicals circulating, as the melanin is taking in some of these chemicals, it latches on to the melanin, sticks there.
Okay.
So if you think about certain drugs, I mean, it's not like black people respond to all kinds of drugs, not like white people respond to all kinds of drugs. It depends upon the person's physiology. I mean, I don't see a lot of black people doing methamphetamine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Black people might be doing marijuana. I mean, so they're not the same effects. So, given that, you then see how it is that some people can get caught up in certain kinds of medications or drugs, and then their body becomes kind of like a dependent on that. That's why,
I
for
see.
me, as I talk on Dark Matters, Dark Secrets, I think of addiction as a disease. It's changed the whole
Mm-hmm.
physiology. So the melanin,
Mm-hmm.
as it's absorbing, is taking in, and now it's in the body longer. Guess what? It can
That's what
also
I'm talking
trigger,
about. Mm-hmm.
stress could be triggering it to release it later. You ever heard of people on LSD? They have LSD trips maybe later in life because that stuff is still in the body and that now is able to be exerted and causes a person to have like a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Another way we can prove that there's a problem with this is because some people, like you're in law enforcement, some people are in other areas where they have to get drug tested. You may have had a cold, took a Robitussin. You go to take a drug test, they say you have cocaine in your system.
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine, but the drug itself may look like it is. And as they're doing the test from the hair, if the chemicals stay in the
Mm-hmm.
hair, you
Mm-hmm.
know, then that's why it looks like you're doing drugs, but it's just the chemicals, that are natural chemical you took, or something from medicine, and they're now saying that you have a drug problem. So that's because the melanin latches on to those chemicals, and now as you study it later on, it then looks like you have some problems.
Mm-hmm.
Melanin and its absorptive capacity that
Mm-hmm.
causes it to look like there's a drug problem, and then you got a whole host of now legal issues to deal with.
But see, here's the other side of that, because we talked about how this melanin can be your friend or it can cause you some issues. Now, take that what you just said and transpose that to some good stuff that you may put in your system, some good nutrients and things of that nature. Can how that would play? Would that take you on another level? And maybe that's the reason why black don't crack. Why how it's dealing with that if it's absorbing and it's food is nothing but an energy transfer. So how did that affect the black physiology?
Well, if you just mentioned the word energy, anything that's coming out of the ground is life producing,
Mm-hmm.
sun enriching, or sun enriched. So that's probably the best thing to be putting in your body. Things that are enriching the way your cells can grow. If it's a box or a can or something that's dead, then that's not life enriching. So you have to look at those who are eating diets that may pertain to more sun produced foods. Therefore, the body's going to be a little bit more healthy because that's what
Mm-hmm.
the body's requiring. Plants have chlorophyll. Bodies have this thing we call melanin. So both of those pigments are very important for the body to function properly. So the
Mm-hmm.
diet becomes critical. See, diet. I don't know why I put the word "die" in there. That's not even the best word to describe this.
Uh-huh.
But foods you consume can help you to live a lot longer and your quality of life to be much better.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't pay attention to it, you're right. The quality of life goes down. So we don't shouldn't be really worried about the quantity, but quality of life. And if you don't know the food items that are like life enriching, I mean, I look at it, pigmented foods are probably one of the best things to think about because it helps out with those chemicals as they circulate in your body. It helps to stimulate some certain, you know, say physiological processes. If you ever took some hot oatmeal or cream of wheat, put some blueberries in there, and you
Mm-hmm.
see all the little juice oozing out of there. That's what's going in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And those
Mm-hmm.
anthocyanins, those carotenoids from like peppers and carrots, and those pigments are critical for your body to operate properly. So those pigments and the sun-enriched foods are what we should be putting into our body.
Yeah, that's, I guess most, African Americans now understand the importance of being out in the sun, and you talk about how vitamin D is actually a hormone, and that was, that helped with, when we was dealing with this current pandemic. People was boning and beefing up on vitamin D, and they could say that's, some of our Caribbean and African and equatorial type of countries, did pretty well in dealing with the current pandemic, though. But here we up in the north here, and Cleveland, and we approaching winter. So to get cold again. So what would you suggest that we do to deal with it? Move out of Cleveland and go south.
No, but great grandma used to give you cod liver oil during the winter months.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that? Because cod liver oil helped reduce the vitamin D, which helped you to have a better immune system during those months where
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lot of diseases and illnesses can flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of running from that environment because you gotta survive. It's a matter of supplementing your body
Okay.
with what's missing. If the sun is
Mm-hmm.
not shining as much anymore during those winter months, you need to find a way to get that external stimulation in your body. So if you need to
Mm-hmm.
supplement with something like vitamin D or cod liver oil, there's a way to go. So
Mm-hmm.
exposing yourself to the natural light though is critical rather than staying inside. The whole pandemic messed people up because they were socially isolated and they then stayed inside. Not
Mm-hmm.
a good thing. So as you're socially isolated and staying inside, you're not getting what proper nourishment from the environment. So whatever you can do to find natural light, even some people now are using artificial light that has like certain lux,
That's what I
certain,
was thinking about. Mm-hmm.
yeah, a certain
Mm-hmm.
level of energy that can simulate what's going on in nature. So there are ways to get around it. That is living in cold environments, but you have to find ways to also supplement it, in my opinion, physiologically, because a lot of mechanisms in your brain and in your body that depend upon uh, the misnomer of vitamin D. We can call it soltriol,
Yes.
Soltriol, soltriol, to have an impact on the body. And it's not just a hormone; it's a steroid hormone. And the way I
Okay.
try to get people to look at that is, if you ever heard of cortisol, which helps out with inflammation in your body and get you ready for a stress situation. And also testosterone, male hormone, estrogen, female hormone. We know those chemicals have impacts on the body, but so does sotriol, which we're saying is vitamin D. That's how important it
Mm.
is.
Mm. Yeah, they. It's a little latitude line in the hemisphere. It was 35 something. That up living up north, we this little imaginary line up, this northern hemisphere that that us living up there and black folks living in that area is, you don't get enough sunlight, and that's an issue. Because I remember back in the day when people always used to talk about, hey man, I went to Arizona and man, my bones is feeling good. They tend to talk about they felt better, and people tend to live a little bit longer, and being in that sun induced environment, is very important.
The thing is, the sun is free. It's almost like the sunshine is free, but we don't pay attention to, even on the issue of solar power. Why should people be struggling with heat and energy when the sun is free? Why can't we construct things to operate that way? Water should be free, but we see how bad water supplies are. I don't know how bad you got it in Cleveland, but we see what's going on in Mississippi. We see what happened in Michigan. Other cities, I'm sure, have bad water problems. The water should be free. So looking at sunlight and water as the essentials for life, and you have a society that's not even interested in topics that pertain to that, we're seeking death. I sat in medical school classes where the professors told these future doctors, don't worry about the pineal gland, it doesn't do too much, and don't worry about that. Well, it helps process this whole connection with keeping our bodies in sync from the sun. I got it in the Dark Matter's Dark Secrets, talk about what the sunlight, the endocrinology of sunlight and darkness. There's a reason why the moon goes up, sun goes up, sun goes down, moon goes down. There's a reason why all that happens, and your body's supposed to respond to that. So if we don't look at nature, then as the native peoples of this land have tried to tell us for years, now we see how global warming is just messing everything up, and people in Florida, I don't know, we might get off this podcast to be no more Florida. That's what it is.
Right. I want to transition a little bit into a subject matter that I like, and it's still on track with melanin, and because that is one of the key components to everything in life, and darkness, one of the key compounds or elements that's in life is carbon. And what color is carbon? Carbon is black. Now, when we get into consciousness and we talking about energy and transferring this conversation to energy, consciousness, and melanin absorbing energy and things like that, it takes us in another direction. When we start talking about consciousness, and everything has a vibration and everything has energy, and how it relates to you and melanin, being this melanated person. Because I go back into when you read some autobiography about Washington Carver, and you hear some of our priests and Babas back on in Africa talking about what relationship that they had with the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom and that vibration. And we tend not to understand and know what is actually going on with our physiology when it comes to things around you and energy, and why does sound affect you and change your mood? Why does smells affect you and fragrances affect you and change your mood? Why you like that deep bass beat in the drum, and how that drum beat affects you, and people actually how they heal by vibratory energy, and melanin is a factor to that, and where black folks act and kind of do almost thing 180 degrees different from our European counterparts. How we worship, how we eat, how we do this, how we do that is different. What role melanin plays in all of that?
Well,
with energy and consciousness and everything.
It's a highly sensitized sensory motor network when it is involved, meaning that it helps to heighten and raise. If you rub your hands together, feel a little heat. If you're wearing some black and it's a sunny day, 90 degrees, you're going to burn up. So you already know it's an absorber. So on a biological level, it's there to heighten all those realities you just expressed. So there's actually a large electromagnetic spectrum that exists out in the world. So it goes from some short frequencies to long frequencies. They can be small or they can be large, so the amplitude. So those frequencies are all out there. But they say the only one we relate to is visible light. Small span in the midst of that large spectrum. So if that's the case, then all you should be doing is respond to light. But no, our bodies respond to all that. And so the more melanated you are, then the more receptive or responsive you may be to those frequencies. And so on that spectrum are the conscious waves. On that spectrum are the spiritual waves. It's not written, but they have to be there. So which spectrum are they in? Where at on that line of electromagnetic energy are they at? Well, the point is, it's out there, but we don't study it. Because how do you study? How do you study spirituality? How do you study consciousness? So when you look at melanin and darkness, you find that you elevate your consciousness in the dark when you're meditating. Not in the bright light, but in the darkness. As you tune inside and go inside, now you focus on those internal mechanisms. So the melanin in this darkness, you find it in those areas in the brain. It's deep in the brain. It's not sunlight causing that. It's there genetically to help you reach that higher stage of consciousness. Because when people are actually meditating, you got information or stimulation that goes from the gonada area, the bottom, the pelvic region, all the way up to the top of the head. And those areas that are being ignited with those fire atoms are melanated. So outside of our body, you're absorbing energy. Inside of your body, you're absorbing energy. We're just energy absorbing people. That's why we say soul brother, soul sister. We talk about your vibes, your vibrations. All that is what part of our reality.
Yeah, and you're not taught about it, and that's why I think we need to have a topic of conversation when you're dealing in the medical field, or if you're dealing with some ailments to where you have to. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have to go to the hospital to get radiation treatment, and you got you elaborated that how melanin cells absorbs energy, and X-ray is a frequency, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yes. And that's another form of frequency. So my point is that because you're not taught in school about your physiology, you're lumped in with everybody else and not understanding this thing called melanin, and unbeknownst to you going through life, could be causing harm to yourself and don't even know anything about it. So I'm saying you need to have a discussion with your doctor. If he's all of that. If you talking about having the X-rays and things like that, because the calibration on those particular instruments, that instrumentation is not the calibration is not set up on to deal with an African male and female, African American male and female. So. I mean, would you agree with that, Doc?
Yeah, I want you to pay attention to this. So, you've been to the dentist?
Not in a while. Mm-hmm.
But if you go to the dentist and they're going to do an X-ray on your
not
going for your foot, not going for your nose, not going for your elbow, it's going for your mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Image right there. What else do? They put a lead blanket on you.
That's right.
A lead blanket on the rest of your body. What else do? They leave the room.
Yeah.
So we know that the X-rays, in the long run, too many of them can start destroying your DNA, impact your cells.
Okay.
But just that localized place of just having it zoomed right here, but still putting a lead blanket over your whole body, and then leaving the room, you know how powerful the X-rays are.
Mm-hmm.
So, without a question, there could be some studies looking at Black people absorbing X-rays more so than others. I mean, the whole 5G technology and this concern about, is it impacting people's physiology? Are there certain populations that are being more impacted than others? Well, we don't know because it's just been rolled out. So we won't know that maybe until a few more years and we start studying that. But those are real questions that we need to ask, because we know that in many of the melanin dominant communities where they put some of these power lines and other elements that are pollution oriented, and you wonder why people get certain kinds of cancers, leukemia, and all other kinds of maladies, and it's because of the toxicity that they're living in.
Yeah, I again, we have to come to grips that, I was just talking to my brother about that. We have to really take a lot of our health knowledge and information about who we are on our own ourselves, because you have to understand that, because we're dealing with a system that is just based on greed, not concerned about, your health is about dollars and cents. I talked to another doctor friend of mine. He said something to me a while ago. He say that the system is so corrupt to the point, far as the medical industry or the pharmaceutical is so crazy that they will weigh the profits versus the lawsuits. If that profit, they say, hey, we know we got some problems with clinical trials here, but hey, we stand to make a gazillion dollars on it, so we'll deal with the lawsuit somewhere down the line. So I'm saying that to say, black folks need to stop taking, for granted, that they're getting good, concise, and good information that is pertained to their physiology. We got to start really doing some investigative stuff ourselves. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I ask students in class, do you know where your kidney is located? Or the adrenal gland?
Yep.
We love about it. I mean, so
and grown folks can't tell you where's the liver at in the body. I used to do that in school with grown folks. Where your liver at? Okay, where your gallbladder at? Because I wanted to do a school with that. That was going to be one of my summer school classes, and talking about, because I think with most people it's like out of sight, out of mind. They don't think about the organs and what it needs to run optimally. They're not thinking about that at all. So if they understood where the organ is located, what's its function, what it needs to run optimally, then maybe you'll think twice a little bit, or at least a little bit more about what you're putting in your system. Because right now, the organs is like out of sight, out of mind. They're not thinking about, if that bad vegetable oil is corrupting some part of their body. They're not thinking about that. But if they knew that, they may, if they know better, they may do better,
So what do we spend most of your time doing is what you value. So if you're not really studying your body and knowing things about your body, and you don't value that, so it's understandable how
absolutely
you actually throw it away. It's like we're nothing but a microcosm of the macrocosm. And you see that where else are we throwing away the environment, the way we're treating it, throwing our body because our health is not there properly. So when you say appreciating who we are and studying who we are, that's the only way to elevate. Other than that, I'll just roll over and die. And the reality is we don't really die of natural causes. You die of toxicity over time.
Doc, in your book Pigment Power, you mentioned a couple of research, and the bibliography is off the chain. You document a lot of people that are very learned on the subject of melanin and its effects. So, but you mentioned, where one of the researchers that everybody is familiar with, Tesla. But you mentioned Tesla and I think it's Reich and Ott. That was doing research that dealt with using the energy that is found in air and things of that. Could you elaborate a little bit on that research? And they was dealing with this long time ago, that with this research could have changed the way how we living right now, but due to greed and everything else, folks elected not to, these some of these people died poor, and never got the recognition that was necessary.
That's why we're really living in dangerous times. I mean, we're talking about a scenario where, if you just said the pharmaceutical companies are interested in profit for their stockholders versus the health of the community, we've already reached a pendulum where it's swung to the negativity and the devilish side of things. So you have someone that's going to advance your health so that you do not have to ask a doctor for help, do not have to go to the medical industry for seeking assistance. That person becomes dangerous because we're living in a medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. So if you go against that system and you now keep people healthy, then nobody's going to the system.
Hey, no, let's keep it real, dog. Some folks have come up missing. Okay? Some folks have come up missing for coming up with different technology that would take and circumvent some of that greed, some of that income, folks have come, and people and black folks need to realize that, man. We really have to realize, because we're talking real talk right now, Doc. I mean, and that's what I want to show, to really enlighten folks and get folks focus on the truth, man. I'm getting too old now to keep dancing around the truth, man. Let's like they say in the substance abuse arena. What do they say? If you don't recognize the problem, how you gonna ever fix the problem? And we keep dancing around it. I don't know how plain that I can actually get it. By saying that the system. Listen, folks. The system does not have your best interest at heart, especially black folks. Okay, can I say any plainer than that? So you can't afford to sit back and take in everything that is being thrown at you. Look at everything that is around you. I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a quick second. What you got up there, Doug? Medical apartheid. Okay, all right. Hey, get that book, y'all. Yeah, get that book. You can't sit back. If you go through history, that's why history is so important, Doc. Because it's repeating itself, because black folks seem like they haven't got caught on to the game that's been playing, demifying the people. You see that the medical industry is booming. They got you forgetting your juju. The stuff that you was taught by grandmama about. You mentioned cod liver oil and things of that nature. They have convinced you, forget about all that backwater. Get my synthesized pill. And people don't know most of the active ingredients that they get all that stuff from to make pills from is from the plant. And so they got it so backwards, and that's why I think they feel so comfortable in your face doing what they do, Doc.
Yeah, don't fear the people at all, so they can do whatever and take advantage of you. So we're not moving in. We're already at that stage, because the people you mentioned, the Reich, Ott, and even Tesla, they were all vilified, for their technology that they were talking about as all energy technology. So the oil industry, fossil fuel industry, I mean, they're the ones that have fueled this problem that we have with this hurricane stuff that we see, and the cyclones, and the people. Oh no, it had nothing to do with fossil fuels. So as we keep putting our head in the sand and burying it like that has no relevance, and not dealing with energy technology, yeah, we're creating a situation where we're blind people being led by those who don't care if you're blind or sight. I don't know if you've seen this documentary, or actually movie, actually series called "A Man Who Fell to Earth."
I seen 1 or 2, 3 episodes on. I'm trying to get back to it.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, Tweedle Ejiofor, I respect him as an actor and all that, and I appreciate that topic of discussion. It's not the first time that's ever been talked about. I think David Bowie did something in the past, a movie related to this. The point I'm making is he was coming here looking for a source of energy. He had some kind of energy that could light up the whole city without worrying about fossil fuels. Okay, so now he's got this energy, and he needs to have some combination, some connection with another woman here on the planet. Just happened to be a black woman. He had to be a black man, so good to play it like that. But the way it was played out, the oil industry and people like that, they're not enemies, because these people are trying to save the world on the way that energy is being used, or fossil fuels and destroying energy, and their technology is an advancement. But those people that are dealing with oil and gas, that's a fight. And that's a real story. How do you fight against that? Well, people haven't been mobilized, and we're not mobilized enough to fight against those big people. Those big people are the billionaires that are creating. You mentioned earlier about charter schools. Those billionaires are buying those properties, getting rid of those little schools, creating charter schools, because they want to get rid of the public schools to have the property. So they're not worried about the education of the people. They want the property. So these people who are the billionaires, these Koch brothers, and one who just passed, but those Koch brothers are the ones that have fueled a lot of this stuff that happened before Trump, this Tea Party, and all these other people trying to get into politics, and the lobbyists. Those people have constructed the society so that you think that the fossil fuels is the way to go to make the money. And all we see is this devastation around us. But energy is all around us. How do we harness it? Well, we can do it in our bodies. I mean, if you go back to Africa, you look at those pyramids and try to figure out how they built those colossal monuments. They did it off of energy transfer. There's no other way to
Mm-hmm.
explain it. When you go there and you see these gigantic blocks and how you put it and fit it in place, energy transference, which we don't understand today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some stuff, I'm putting something together myself and be releasing soon, but um, it just seems like we've been dumbing down so much to where we can't put together breadcrumbs that are right in our face, and some of our critical thinking seems to have went right out the window. I mean, do you actually believe that you can take millions of barrels of oil out of the earth every day and there's no effect? One of the principles is cause and effect. So do you think that we can continue to do that for years and don't have an effect on the planet? Really?
You asking me, or you just making a rhetorical statement?
I'm just making a rhetorical statement.
Yeah. Uh, you ever read a book by Michael Bradley called Iceman
Iceman
Inheritance?
inheritance.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain mindset that comes to asking the question about that because some people don't care. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a subtitle is Western man's racism, sexism, and aggression. They don't care. It's just a matter of taking. So you say about the barrels of oil or fossil fuels and elements coming out of the land, out of the ground. No, they don't care. It's about living for the now. Even though we see Musk and this guy named was a Amazon man going to the moon, trying to get to Mars, set up colonies there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
future thinking, but they don't care
Yes.
about the dynamics of what's going on here.
Man, that could be the blood of the earth. We don't even know what it. What I'm trying to say. It's there for a reason. It's there a purpose, and it's been sitting there forever. So
There is
come on.
no reason why Mississippi should be in the problem that they have where those people don't have any water. If Jeff Bezos and this guy Musk and these people have all that money, they don't care. There's no
Mm-hmm.
reason why the water supply should be that bad in a place where you can't wash, drink. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do. There is no reason in 2022. People who have money, that money where you don't need any more money,
Mm-hmm.
they don't care, and we see it right in front of our face.
I mean, but some folks, but some of us, and moving right on to our last segment and talking about consciousness, some folks would look right at those, particular examples that we are talking about and keep right on trusting and believing. And when you see right in your face, look, you can see that, because the propaganda's got us so uh, brainwashed and believing that this system is the best, it's the greatest in the world, and our medical system and things like that. Uh, if we was that advanced in our technology, every hospital that I know of in Cleveland, I don't know about down in Atlanta, they build on extra wings and growing and expanding.
Mm.
Okay, and our children. I mean, shouldn't it be a wake up call, Doc, that you see that your young folks are coming down with more cancer, heart attack, diabetes at a very young age? I mean, shouldn't the alarms should be sounding and paying attention? Are we so distracted with the football, LeBron, and partying and having a good time to where we don't see and recognize and telling somebody and get somebody together and pumping the brakes? Isn't that something that our social activists, our churches, and all these other folks that may be beating down the door on other issues, maybe that's and we have this issue with us coming together and we letting this thing called religion keeping us divided. So maybe ain't that something that we maybe can all agree on and come together on those particular issues that are happening right in our faith, that it's going to affect you and your prodigy and legacy? Come on, man. What's the problem here?
I mean, you saying it should happen, but look at gentrification in all our cities right now. So you got the melanin recessive people coming back into the cities, trying to take over, not trying, taking over the cities. So those individuals wouldn't necessarily care about some of these dynamics because it's just a matter of living comfortably for them, closer to work, creating an environment around where they ain't got to travel anymore because all the
Mm-hmm.
now Whole Foods are right next door. But prior to that, didn't give a darn about those areas. So this is a nationwide problem. Those
Mm-hmm.
schools that are being shut down because they want to put charter, not public schools. How many people can afford then going to a school that's 10, 20, 30 miles away? Can't. Schools should be in the community. You're in police and law enforcement. The people who are in law enforcement should be living in that community. You don't live in the community, how are you going to treat the community properly? Because a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot is disconnected on a social level, and it's been done that way purposefully. All this privatization of knowledge, privatization of health, privatization of water, blah, blah, blah. That's about taking control of things and not making it public oriented. That's why they
Mm-hmm.
always targeted Obama, calling him a so-called socialist president, because he was trying to make it for the people. The whole Affordable
Right,
Care Act.
right,
It wasn't
right.
Obamacare. It was the Affordable Care Act. But people flip the script. Why? Because it will make it look bad. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how the people in power control things. You flip the script. You turn the story around.
Propaganda.
You
Mm-hmm.
make it support the mission that you want. So there's positive propaganda, there's negative propaganda. So we're
Mm-hmm.
in a position right now when you ask these deep questions, they're deep, but they're just superficial because unless we are organized, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. And we're not organized
Yeah.
enough right now to stop all that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I always I've been barking up that tree for quite a while when we talk about our culture. Our culture as a people, that's if you take a serious interest in your people, for number one, money is not on the top of the list. Your personal gain. You can't fix our problem through the same capitalist system that has got you downtrodden. And that's something that you kind of alluded to a little bit. The same techniques that's got us in this particular problem is going to be the same techniques that's going to get us out of the problem when you start talking about consciousness and propaganda and how that weighs on the mind. What do you think on that, John?
Well, I got to give a homework assignment. You ever heard of William Barber?
I seem like I heard that name before.
Okay, so
Oh,
what
you
you
might
do?
have mentioned it to me before. It's something I believe you
Yeah.
did.
Either way, the homework assignment is William Barber is in North Carolina as a minister who's leading
Mm-hmm.
the People's Campaign, the Poor People's Campaign.
Uh-huh.
Not just in North Carolina, he's in Mississippi right now, trying to help those people out with the water
Oh,
crisis.
oh yes, I know him. The big guy brother, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, yeah,
somebody you have on your
yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah. I know him.
Another avenue of communication because Martin Luther King had the Poor People's March before they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
So unless the poor people, which are not just black, are not just white, not just Hispanic, it goes across the board. Unless those and us people get together to target those capitalists that are just trying to exploit and take, it's not going to change. So we have to have the voices that are out there that are doing the work. I have much respect for William Barber. I don't ever met him, but what he's doing to organize people on multiple levels, multiple
Mm-hmm.
generations. The brothers in I think Omawali Yeshatali, guy who runs Uhuru movement.
Oh,
Uh,
and out west, yeah, where they
yeah,
just kind of did him in and tried to break. The
yeah,
SWAT came in with the spot. His
right.
spot. Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is that he's not just black people; he's white people in the organization too,
That's right.
Hispanic.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so
Mm-hmm.
that's why Fred Hampton was dangerous because he was organized all people. See, you
Mm-hmm.
kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. So Fred Hampton was another example of someone who was there organizing multiple people. So with Hampton gone, King not here, someone like Barbara, hey, if you had the chance to interview him to address some of the questions you were asking me, I think we got somebody that's going to be probably a little more profound because he's out there doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely need to know more, uh, and actually create some type of network or a circle with those type of people that
Yeah.
we know that are out in the world because we don't know run no media campaigns per se. We're using platforms like this, but we really need to get to the mainstream of our folks to get this type of information out.
And
There's
that's why
people out there doing the work.
I've always respected you with the 360 degrees of truth and what you've done on the radio. Now you got the podcast. You're
Hmm.
able to reach people internationally. As we produce international stories. I don't know if you understand what's going on in Brazil right now. So we got the
Mm-mm.
issue of consciousness. So in Brazil, you got Lula da Silva running against this guy now, Bolsonaro, who's like the Trump of the
Yeah, I
Southern
heard.
Europe.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yes.
So what we're saying is this Bolsonaro guy is already saying he's going to play the same book that Trump did by not leaving office, but he might try to do it militarily. Well, Lula da Silva was recused of all the so-called things they accused him of, even though he sat in jail. But he's the people's elected leader. He's now probably going to win the next election, but already these white supremacists are setting it up. We're not going to allow this to happen. So consciousness. So how do we squash that? Well, in Colombia, guess what? They elected a leftist president and a sister as the vice president. What?
In Colombia.
In a place where you have the whole drug problem, the drug cartels, where they don't want anybody making changes like that, well, that consciousness is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So the platform that you have, allowing people to have understanding about these multitude of events that happen throughout the world, when it changes on a world scheme, effects happen. I mean, look about hip hop. Hip hop is all over the world. We created that. They singing hip hop in Palestine in their own perspective. They singing hip hop in France from their own perspective. We've been manipulated on this side. Now hip hop is being used negatively in a way that, like, exploiting us, versus how it started out with conscious hip hop. But your whole perspective, when you ask me about consciousness, it starts with the person, and the outside manipulations are why it makes it difficult for the person to then understand who they are to make an impact. So hip hop's being used, it's all over the world, but we got to start looking at ways to put it in a proper perspective. That means we have to control the dissemination of it, not have the airwaves being pushed by someone that's in the capitalistic enterprise and he's just doing it to make money. Nah, we don't change the consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was powerful. That's real important there, brother Moore. You know, like I said, people, how we started it off. We talked about how, during our conversation, how people work so hard to make us, consciously feel a certain way and feel a little bit less than. Dr. Amos Wilson, in dealing with his work, he talked about what you just said. Change your consciousness, you change your reality.
Yeah.
You said you don't always have to work on trying to change the man. Change yourself, and he will automatically change. You see, so we have gotten so complacent about the order and the way things are at this present. So things are gonna, we got comfortable, and making a change ain't really in our best interest. We're comfortable at what we're doing at this point.
Yeah, and the obtaining and gaining of knowledge is where the problem is. Most people aren't interested in seeking a better way. They want to push that button and some answer to come to them.
Instant
Yeah.
coffee, huh?
And so from the students to just the general public, people aren't really invested anymore in growing. It's like when you say the word dumbing down, that's been discussed by many people in society we're living in. I was scratching my head the other day when I was playing a video in class, and students said, "Dr. Moore, please put on the closed caption." Okay, fine. So I'm showing the video, but they wanted to see the words on below. So this generation, 18 to 25, the statistics show that that's what they prefer. I didn't grow up like that. That was for the, I don't know, either hearing impaired or something like that. Why you have closed caption? And now there's a preference.
Right.
Things have changed. Most people, you push the button, you got the answer. Push the button, you got the answer.
Yeah.
I go to the book, which means it's difficult to spell anymore. It's difficult to.
They had people they had to bring back teaching the kids how to do cursor in writing. They had stopped cursor writing up here at the schools. I don't know if they did down there, but they had to bring it back.
That's over. Yeah. But I'm just an example of how the consciousness has changed. Therefore, that's what we're fighting against. So unless we find ways to alter that, in my opinion, backward thinking. I mean, technology is good in one sense, but you see how it's dumbed us down. So there's an argument. A cool brother named Dr. Jeff Menzies. You need to have him on your program, Brother Nakamura. He wrote a book called Dumbing Down.
Mm.
A book called uh, that's a book called Dumbing Down: Reflections on the Miseducation of the Negro. He breaks down when people ask him about technology. He's got a podcast where he's on there and he talk about psychology, but
Yeah,
like
the light hit me wrong on that one. Yeah.
called Practical Psychology 101, a psychological manual for Black Lives Matter and other movements. So he's in the same realm I am that technology has been a problem. Others are like,
Hmm.
oh, it's access to maybe getting more money. We'll push the button on, what is it, trading devices or Red Robin, all these kind of devices where you
Okay. Hmm.
get some stocks. And so people have made money off of technology. But the reality is, it's limited our scope because now kids don't even know maps because you're pushing the button to travel. GPS. GPS, and you don't even know what GPS stands for.
You know, Doc, it's I think we have we're traveling down this rabbit hole, and I don't think it's a point of no return. I was a guy gave me a book on frequencies and how we are swimming in a cesspool of frequency, and we just explained to the audience what melanin does as far as absorbing energy and things like that all around. So now can you imagine a cesspool of radio waves all around you, how and what that could be doing to you, on the physical level. It's like a point of no return. And then you couple that with the whole psychological propaganda stuff that they have played on us and made us complacent, and everything that you see around you, that as far as now I'm speaking on our people, my people, African Americans is concerned, they, most people, a lot of people is talking about this whole, white superiority piece or white supremacy type of piece with the propaganda that they putting down there, and you said something in the book, Doc, that me and my brother, would talk about, and if people just look at that, you see that, by somebody going through that much effort to not talk to you and teach you your history, that, if you were a superior person, how you, Doc, when you used to see those Asian Chinese movies, when the guy that the big bad guy that knew that was the coldest, kung fu master, he was always calm, cool. He said, I ain't got to show my stuff. I'm gonna show my stuff when I have to show my stuff. I'm not going around bragging and just the loud mouths and this, that, and other. So if black folks have and how they downplay us being inferior, because over the 100 years they've been with the darky toothpaste and showing you this and saying you're ignorant, you can't be quarterbacks, you ain't smart enough, and all the negative stuff that you see about. So you got embedded through probably epigenetics, that got some issues going on, so if you superior, what's the brainwash? I read that one, Doctor. Absolutely, brother. That's a good book too. Yes, and so they got you thinking that. So my question is, if you are, and what you mentioned in the book, Pigment Power, if you are supreme as you state that you are, why are you working so hard to hinder somebody else's progress? Why?
Yeah. And that goes into Dr. Welsing's work there, the ISIS papers. It's a
Mm-hmm.
psychiatrist. She's breaking it down about the whole inferiority complex dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
The two driving principles in our theory are, that white people feel as though they're numerically inadequate, not enough of them, so they have to organize around politics, economics, do what they can to be on top. And since they're genetically inferior because they lack the ability to produce melanin, because if you put black person with a white person, it's going to wash out those white genes. So in the
Mm-hmm.
long run, this is where the so-called fear comes from. So there really fear generated, not so much pushing the superiority of the person, but the actuality of the fear of losing something. And that's why you
Mm-hmm.
have this craze with the critical race theory, thinking that if you keep teaching things about real history, they vilified white scholars like Joseph, I think Lowen, wrote a book called Lies My Teacher Told Me. Lowen got that over there. They criticize Howard Zinn or People's History of the United States. What? So if they're criticizing the white scholars talking about this, they're going to criticize anybody else that's melanin dominant talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they fear the loss of something. That's why the whole topic I taught the students the other day. They didn't know what the word what lost cause meant. The lost cause was, what happened at the Civil War, where they got beat down. The Civil War, the Confederate got beat down, but they still won the war because they weren't telling the story.
I mean, just like the Devil's Punch Bowl and so many other things, and even the things that would give us some positive imagery or some self-esteem about, they got us believing that black folks just laid down and just let the system do what they did to us with no fight, even over in Africa. I was listening to some Professor Smalls that was talking about it. I'm gonna get him on to talk about it. He talked about all those rebellion and strong women and sisters that was over in Africa fighting against the European forces, for the longest, and rebelling against them. But hey, but if you don't tell your story, if you can't tell your story, you're not in position to tell your story or your narrative, then those things are not talked about, and therefore, again, why should they? That's something that Brother Kabakane talking about. Hey, if I was in power, and I'm trying to keep a system together, why should I tell you about how heroic that you were about? Why should I tell you that? Yeah, that's my brother. Absolutely. Yeah, the Shabaka stone. Yes, yeah. Okay. Spirituality before religion. Yeah. Yes, my man.
Never met him. He supports my work. That's why I was just
yeah. Oh yeah. I brought him to town several times. He's been on the show. Yeah, so again, that's the game that's been played. And Doctor, as we round up around the corner to try to close, and we're gonna let people know we're gonna do a part 2 to this. So look forward to the part 2 of this, where we go in and dissect pigment power a little bit more, and maybe get into this new book. Let's show that new book again, Doc, that you just got in, so folks can they click on that and
nope, not yet. I just got
that's it. Yes. Hold on, let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. Yeah, why darkness matters. So the power of melanin in the brain. Yes. Okay, y'all see that there? Yeah, he gonna. I'll let you know when it's ready. You'll get. Oh man, you got all that work from all those guys there, man, in the book.
Yep.
All right, so if you're interested, people, in really learning something about your physiology, it's very important. It's very important. But Doc, we talked about a lot of things about melanin, and how it's its makeup and what it does. I remember having conversations with you talking about, hey, that chlorophyll in plants. They say that's melanin. That's the and something that from one movie that I thought, just one line that John Travolta said in the movie Phenomenon. When we start talking about diet and food, and how it relates to consciousness and being electrical, he said something that kind of stuck with me when he said, when I eat this apple, it becomes a part of me. You know what I mean? And I took it in the terms of that transfer of that energy, you know what I'm saying? Eating something live, a live entity, a live electrical current, that's being transferred into your system to help power your battery. You know what I mean? And that's what we need to get more on. So, and you talked about in pigment power, a person by the name of J.A.H. what's it? Diok.
Yeah.
And they wrote a book of the Melanin Guide to Spiritual Awakening. And I guess it talks a little bit about what we should be doing to take care of ourselves. There we go. Yes. Could you speak on that a little bit while we closing?
Much respect for her for writing this book. I'll try to send you a copy if you don't have one. But she's a nutritionist.
Okay.
So she was with health and juicing, and she started one of the first juice bars there in DC. So she wrote the book to move on a level of saying that our food and the items that we consume have have relevance to our consciousness. So I don't have any diet material in any of my books. I just emphasize the importance of the things that should be put into your body. But she
Mm-hmm.
goes into more in-depth understanding about recipes and ways that you can juice and ways that you can find ways to use pigmented foods. So that's why I encourage people to get this book. And it's not just the diet, but she also covers the history and she deals with the importance of melanin from multiple perspectives. So in terms of you awakening yourself on a spiritual level, you cannot do it without understanding your body. And
Mm-hmm.
there's another brother named Leon Marshall wrote a book called The Hidden Science of Melanin. This brother's in England, so he supports my work. So Sister Dwight, she
Doik. Mm-hmm.
supports my work, and then Brother Marshall here supports my work, and so he's taking it to another level. And if you get a chance to get this book, I think it'll be very helpful. Nice images, colored images,
Mm-hmm.
but England. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the spiritual awakening, a part of it, that's a whole nother science that our
Mm-hmm.
ancient African ancestors studied in the past. How do we now elevate that to make it real today? Maybe
Yeah.
that's the task for the next decade. Focus on the
Yeah.
spirituality and finding the science behind that.
Yeah, it's so important, Doc. I think we will be on a road of recovery and understanding for number one that everything is electrical. By number one, then you can get into some of the African sciences and understanding why they did some of the things that they did. And everything ain't spooky to you. I mean, everything, woo, they take this plant to do this or this plant. If everything gives off energy and you absorbs energy, so that's science. That's one thing that I really appreciated that Billy Carson broke down and was talking about that science aspect of things, and it kind of hit home with me and it brought some stuff home for me and understanding. Yes, it's all science. Everything is electrical. Everything. So that plant gives off a certain energy, and it may have some type of mood, emotional type of effects because of the wavelength that it is giving off. Why for our Bible readers, it's not by chance that they dealt with frankincense and myrrh and other things that they've done. Why did they do that? There's a reason behind that. So I think that would be one of the things, and then understanding that, and that's why I kind of changed my diet when understanding that the mind, body, and soul and spirit is all interconnected. And I think that's one of the issues that I have with the church, because they never bring that connection together of mind, body, and spirit. So I said, hey, I don't know what type of modality, religious philosophy that I was going to journey down in my quest for learning, in higher learning and information. I said, but while I'm on that journey, what I can do and can control and do better on as far as my diet, and so it's a connection there. So that, I think that's number two, that what we can do
So you
to,
copy
yes,
that.
yeah, absolutely, to enhance that. And that's, and in closing, Doc, I seen something come across the internet. I don't know if it's true or not. I was trying to find it again, but when I was in the schools with the kids, I used to kind of like joke about some of the bad behavior that the kids was having, and I always used to say, man, them Skittles driving you crazy. That's what's wrong with you. Y'all eat too much. You eat too much Skittles. But something came down the pipe talking about the Skittles having some type of mind altering issues or something, doing something with the body, and I was like, wow. And I said that about 15 years ago, just joking. You know what I mean? But
Oh,
that's.
I didn't come across that, but Pop Tarts, Fruit Loops, all them cereals that you give the kids
Mm-hmm.
before they go to school, and then they can't sit down in the classroom, and the teacher won't label
Mm-hmm.
them as attention, hyperactive deficit
Yeah,
issues, and just
cognitive thinking.
I don't want sugared up.
Yeah.
Not that, the artificial flavors in the sugared up foods.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and again, at that age, the bodies may be real sensitive to it. So I hadn't seen that Skittles story, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it came across. I was trying to look for it again. I couldn't find it. And somebody else mentioned it. That's why I was trying to go back to it. I'll say, oh, yeah, I did see that. Well, Doc, it's a pleasure. Like I said, we're gonna let our listeners know that we're gonna get back on this journey somewhere down the line and get a part two to this and finish up our conversation. It's not an interview, our conversation of imparting some information and some knowledge. Pardon words, Doc. What can anything that you might want to talk about or advice you want to give our listening audience, our viewing audience?
But basically, freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitude. Freedom ain't free. You got to work for it. All this information about what's out there in the world to gather, I mean, you got to go seek it. I mean, all the things we're talking about, you can push a button and get, but how come people don't know? Because the consciousness is not there to find a way to tap into that. So we have to put ourselves in the positions where we're appreciating knowledge acquisition. If you're into a position where you're allowing things just to be told to you, like telling a vision, you're never going to win. You have to be in the position of creating a vision. So we need to find ways that will encourage people to be more interested in elevating the consciousness rather than being lazy, allowing something to come in and manipulating them. So fight the power.
Right. I appreciate you, Doc. Always we have to get you back up in Cleveland again. To my travelers, I appreciate you guys for tuning in to my first episode of the journey. I brought a good brother that I really respect, and it's wonderful when you run into scholarly brothers that are down to earth. You can easily approachable, and you can talk to and willing to share the knowledge. And it's not all about dollars and cents. It's the primary concern is our people, and that's how I feel that about it as well. It's not about dollars and cents. So I appreciate you, Doc, and all you listeners. That I thank you for taking a ride on this journey with me. And stay tuned. We're gonna have more great conversations with some of our scholars around the country, and I'm trying to get a few other scholars that are even not on this continent to come in and join. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and definitely hit that subscribe button, so you can be plugged in, at what we're doing, so you can always be plugged into Hamptonio. And don't forget, if you're in another part of the world and you want to tune into the radio show on Saturdays mornings from 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern time, you can go to www.newstalkcleveland.com, www.newstalkcleveland.com, and hit the listen live button, and join us, and it'll be a wealth of information. Dr. Moore has been on several times imparting good information, and and this is what it's all about. Because for me, family, we in wartime. I don't have enough. People. Hey, Doc. Folks had to remind me that the what was it? The All-Star game or Super Bowl was going on. I wasn't even paying no attention to that, man. I was like, hey, something going on in the planet, something going on in the cosmos, something going on in this country. Hey, yeah, man. Please, we got to stay in tune to what's going on. Dr. Mo, I appreciate my brother, and you stay strong, man. And peace, my brother. Stay strong.
Much blessings on your journey.
Thank you, my brother.
Peace.
Peace out. Peace.